Hey everyone, welcome to SmallCapSteve Live. I am your host, SmallCapSteve. We got a big show for you guys today. We're going to be joined later by Russell Starr from Trillium Gold. We just announced a huge drill program. Want to hear what's going on there. We got some big bot deals announced today in the Canadian junior markets. Revive did 20 million. Great Bear did over 30. What else do we got going on? Some gold companies announced some plans for production, some drill results. Verano closed $100 million financing. Bank of Canada, they're going to keep the overnight rate unchanged until at least 2023. So that's going to be pretty bullish for gold. I think that it's a pretty exciting time, and get ready for a big show. All right, let's go. Jason, sweet Jason, how do you do this morning?
Oh, I'm all right. I'll be honest. I'm a bit frustrated with some local politics that's going on here.
Local politics going down.
Local politics.
What's happening in rural Saskatchewan?
Actually, it's in Regina, and it's trending on Twitter, believe it or not. That's how stupid it is. But the City of Regina Council has decided that they don't want fossil fuel companies advertising in the city anymore. So that basically means that all the buildings that are sponsored by cooperators and Sask Power, Sask Energy are no longer allowed to have their signs on buildings.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of thoughts here that I can't process on the spot about something like that.
My frustration largely stems from the whole fossil fuels are so bad, yet people fail to realize that they use them in their everyday lives, despite whether or not they think they're being sustainable.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, let car companies that sell combustible engine vehicles advertise. Right.
But even still, like, how do you communicate oil-based products? That's our world is based on oil, but yet we vilify it, and I just find it so stupid.
But like, they're advertising. Like, why do they even really need to advertise? Like, why does a big oil producer need to even
so for instance, here in Regina, we have the Cooperators Refinery. It employs hundreds of people locally, and now, like, downtown, one of our sports center is a Federated Cooperator Center, and they basically their sponsorship enables us to have hockey rinks and everything of the sort to support the community. They'll no longer be allowed to have their name up there, so we lose a massive source of funding for everything in the city, if that makes sense. So
I want to make about 10 corner gas jokes.
Oh, I know you do.
That's all I know about Saskatchewan is corner gas and the Riders. The Riders play in Regina, right? Or are they Saskatoon? They're Regina, yeah.
Regina.
We had an office in Regina, and I never even visited it.
Yeah, and then coronavirus came along. It didn't make sense to keep it.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into the news here. There's, as you well know, there's a ton of news that happened this morning.
It was a very busy morning.
The Bank of Canada, they've upheld their commitment to keep the overnight rate changed until 2023. What can you tell me here, Jay?
Yeah, so unchanged, not changed, like you said there. So basically, overnight rate is staying at 0.25%, and the Bank of Canada anticipates to keep it at that level until at least 2023, allowing the economy to get back on its feet following the fallout from the virus. On top of that, they're looking to do at least $4 billion per week in government bonds and everything. Effectively, to me, it's more QE in Canada. A quick little article put together by Hermina.
Can I do a quick little rant here? I got a video clip. I don't know how this is going to work, but let me try to play this clip here that I have, and I put it up on Twitter. I've got hold on. I'm going to do this live on the air here, but I want to play. I have to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to share it again. Share the audio so you guys can see this. Okay, now. Okay, share. Now I'm going to.
Inflation is borne disproportionately by less wealthy people. They tend to operate more in cash, and so they tend to disproportionately bear the cost of inflation. Inflation is borne disproportionately.
Were you able to hear that?
Inflation is borne disproportionately by the lower class.
Yep. So this is something that it's a concept that many of my friends who consider themselves to be, socialists, God love them, they don't understand this. Like, none of them understand. Like, this is the fucking governor of the Bank of Canada telling you that those who worked through the pandemic, those Amazon employees who kept shipping stuff out, the grocery store people who were terrified, they didn't know what this pandemic was going to happen. They thought that, they're going and risking their lives every day. They're going to catch this thing that nobody knew anything about, making minimum wage.
I was just about to add minimum wage on top of it.
And here we have the fucking governor of the Bank of Canada who's telling everybody, who's going to pay for all that? The same people who worked when we all sat on our asses. Nobody talks about this, and it drives me mental, because it's just like everybody who's in the middle class are sitting around going, "Oh, it's the wealthy, it's the rich folks. We need to tax them more." And it's just like, none of them have any clue that all these quantitative easing and monetary policies, what they're designed to do. They're designed to split up the labor class from the capital class and make it so that those who end up working the hardest and the shittiest jobs end up paying for the rest of us. That's life, I suppose. But how does somebody without capital protect their wealth? It's a question I start asking myself all the time.
Oh, the problem is,
how do you do it? You don't have any money. You're making, let's say minimum wage is $15 an hour. They print a bunch of money, and your $15 an hour is worth less. Used to buy you, a good amount of groceries for $200. I go to the grocery store now. Weekly groceries for my family cost me $400. I only got 2 little kids, but people make $50 an hour. How are they supposed to get ahead? So my belief is that the only strategy that really kind of makes sense is you've just got to start taking some risk. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm basically saying hope is your hope is your only strategy. How else are you supposed to get out of this thing? With you're just watching capital fall further, or assets fall further and further out of reach. They raise the minimum wage substantially every 5 years. Everybody celebrates. Meanwhile, in real terms, the value of the dollar is going down. I don't know. It really fires me up, Jay, because I don't think enough people really. On Paul.
To be fair, that's already happened to Pierre. There's a number of times that he posted on Twitter showing the video where he was just cut out during committee meetings by the speaker.
Watch it. Watch when this guy goes to run. Watch when Pierre gets a shot at the leader of the Conservatives. Makes a lot of sense on paper. French-sounding name. Young people who normally don't tend to vote Conservative will probably vote for this guy. A lot of reasons on paper that strategically he would have a good shot. But you know what? Everybody behind that party who makes these back deal promises to get elected so that they get that donor money. So now they've got to make sure that there's all this room in the budget so that they can make all those things happen. Sound money. Deficits. We need those. We need those to fund our political interests so that we get elected and we can keep going for another 4 years. So just watch, Pierre. If you're listening, I'm sure you're not, but I really just wish that Pierre could have a shot here. He won't. Same thing happened to young people love 2 guys, Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders, 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Why? Because they called bullshit on the system, and Pierre's doing it right now, and he will get sent to the corner and told to shut his fucking mouth, guaranteed. So how do I play it from a capital market standpoint? Gold. That's why I love gold. I keep coming on here talking about it. I'll probably be right eventually. But right now it's boring. Nobody wants to hear about it. Gold stocks are catching a bit though, Jay. There was some big news in the gold world. What can you tell us about it?
Well, where do you want to start? There's plenty of news.
Let's start with Great Bear. I think the Great Bear is the big headline here.
Great Bear, $37.2 million flow-through financing, no warrant on that. Because its flow-through is conducted at a premium, I believe it. Sorry,
yeah, sorry, I got to turn the audio off. That's the problem with this stream. Is it better now?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, because I had the audio on so I could play that clip.
Oh yeah, so I was getting a back feed there. Alrighty, so this financing conducted at $18.60 per share, so a significant premium to the market price. Now that is because of certain tax benefits that this financing will have for those that invest, just because it's flow through. That being said, I think that's more of a premium that is normally ascribed to flow through financing, so it somewhat says the demand for gold, not producers, but gold juniors, I guess, if you want to classify Great Bear as that.
The big theme here, if you're following the junior markets, is that money's being raised. People have an appetite to continue to pour money into this project. And usually when this happens, we're seeing all the other gold juniors perk up. It looks like we're finally starting to see some of these gold juniors catch a bid.
Yeah, and I mean, the QMX and Eldorado gold transaction this morning, to me, is a great sign of that as well. Okay. Just the same in the sense that larger producers are looking to grab additional resources because they're starting to get cash flow going on, right? So this was a $132 million transaction, 30 cents per share. It actually has a few QMX gold shareholders upset, largely because the 52-week high on QMX was 38 cents. It was at 31 just August off memory, and they're only getting 30 cents now. Now, the stock closed at 21 cents yesterday, so there still is a premium, and they're being paid 7.5 cents per share plus a fraction of an Eldorado gold share. To me, what this largely signifies, though, is that the process is starting where it will lead to other gold juniors starting to really catch a bid as investors speculate on who's next to be picked up.
Yep. What was the company that you were tweeting about on the weekend? It's like has like $1 billion in cash and a $2 billion market cap.
So I'll be clear here. It was Amgold. I think right before we went live, Justin put out an article on how analysts downgraded it solely based on they thought that it'd produce a bit more. Now, Amgold does have some debt. They've got $450 or $465 million in notes that are due in 2028. They just got those notes arranged last September. Interest rate of 5.25%, down from they basically used it to pay off prior notes that were at 7.5%. And so, I mean, there is some debt on the books, but I mean, this company has $950 million in cash with a $2 billion market cap. Even if it underperformed a bit in terms of what people thought they produced for gold, they did have some issues with seismic activity at one of their facilities late last year. To me, it's still interesting solely on the basis of half their market cap is cash, which is just wild. Debt or no debt, right? So, I mean, cancel out the debt, it's still $500 million. That's $500 million, and they're valued at, what does that say there? $2 billion with
$2 billion market cap, $1.6 billion enterprise value because of the cash balance minus the debt. Takes you to a pretty. It seems like it. I don't know the gold world too well. We're kind of just learning it ourselves, but like there's got to be some assets you can just go accumulate with a cash position like that to just arbitrage for your shareholders.
Absolutely. I mean, if they want to, they could pay off the note, but at this point, why bother? It's at 5%. They can probably get a better return by using that money to buy someone out, right? I mean, I'm sure this is a similar story for so many different gold producers that are suddenly seeing an influx in cash from raising price of gold, right? Like it's just insane to me the amount of money these guys are producing.
What were your thoughts on the QMX transaction? We've got Michael, the Red Lake guy, who's actually, I'm pretty sure Michael Dane, the like, I mean, I'm not going to call him the famous former senior geologist of Gold Corp. I'm going to call him the infamous former senior geologist from Gold Corp. He's asking us what our thoughts are. I'd love to get Michael's hot take on it.
I would actually like to get his hot take on it too. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about either company. However, I know, to me, it was noteworthy that these transactions are starting to happen.
Yeah.
QMX is focused in the Abitibi region, and that's about the extent of my knowledge. I believe they've got a few properties. The acquisition allowed Eldorado to expand its land holdings by 550% or something in that region. But again, that's just data from the news release. That's not data that I actually know for certain. So, I mean, I don't have much of an opinion on it. Like I said, I know a bunch of people are not happy given that QMX has drifted down from earlier highs it hit this past summer.
I don't know too much about QMX either. I know that they had a mill at some point. I don't think they still have that, but yeah, I don't know. Let's move on here. Another gold thing to talk about. Let's go with Starr Peak Exploration. They began their 2021 drill program at the new metal property. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so Starr Peak is actually a name that, yes, we cover. And on Sunday, we had a piece out by one of our writers just highlighting this exploration program that's coming. Now that it's started effectively, it's a 5,000 meter program. They're looking to drill around the historic, I'm going to butcher this, Norm Metal mine on the property. Now that mine was in production from 1929 through to 75. They took out 10.1 million tons of ore with copper, zinc, gold, and silver found in there. Right next door is Amex Exploration and their, I believe it's called Perron property, which is sizable. I don't remember the figure off the top of my head. However, the chances of Starr Peak finding gold are likely pretty good given historical drilling and the recent discoveries right next door.
Okay. Here's some thoughts on what we were just talking about a second ago here. This is from Michael Dane. Normally, I'm not going to share these thoughts, but some things to think about. Amgold has lots of cash commitments for developing new projects, so the cash will disappear. QMX and Eldorado, and both well run, great smaller assets, good deal for all, not overpaid, upside on all sides. Doing the politicking thing, and we're not getting Michael the Dick, we're getting Michael the Dane.
Resist, could you?
Yeah. Look, Michael would know a lot better than we do. Our whole idea here is just talking about this as a theme for those who are kind of looking at this from a top-down approach, which normally we're kind of bottom-up guys. It's just interesting to see that some of these transactions are happening. So if you're in that 10-cent junior gold name, this is it's interesting to see that they're we're seeing more of these transactions. There's another one. I don't think I got it up here, but Newlocks.
Newlocks. So you want me to riff?
Yeah, please riff on Newlocks. I'd love it.
Oh, my love for Newlocks, junior gold producer in Costa Rica. They today announced that they have resumed gold pouring. Now, they previously poured gold at this operation. However, they had to shutter things as a result of the pandemic. During that time, they actually moved their facility to a better long-term location. So they got that started up and running late last fall. I think it was in November off memory. And they've now started doing their gold pours. A number of photos have been released by the company, and there's a few more floating around on Twitter as well for those interested in seeing the gold bar there. It's great to see that operations are continuing to ramp. This facility at 80 tons per day is expected to be at full capacity in the second quarter. Notably, in the second quarter, they're also expecting the Boston project to come online, which is 150 tons per day. So lots going on with this company, small market cap, and I love that they're producing gold.
Mm-hmm. Let me pull this up here 1 second here. I got that. I actually just pulled up the pictures here. This is such an interesting name. It's one that we've talked about. They're a client we give coverage to, but I know that this is actually your favorite stock pick.
Yes, this is actually my favorite long personally, and we are incredibly long together, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I truly cannot say enough good things about this operation. They're focused on environmental remediation at the same time, which is a win-win for
it's a gold company, but it's also an ESG stock.
Yeah, it's just so unique in what it does. And I mean, they plan on having a bunch of these small projects going on, not just in Costa Rica, but anywhere artisanal miners are operating. So, I mean, it also provides work for artisanal miners, which is great for these smaller countries that don't necessarily have the same type of infrastructure that larger countries do, right? So they're doing good work on many different levels. And for that, hats off.
This is the only gold company I actually want to visit.
I would love to visit them too.
My wife's already given me shit. She's already like, you go to Costa Rica, we're coming. And I'm like, I got a work trip. I work. I'm a working man. I'm going to Costa Rica to work.
Oh, yeah, maybe we can go down and visit.
Now.
We'll get our video team down there so we can do some flyovers, do SmallCapSteve live from the jungle. That'd be great.
SmallCapSteve on site here, sunny Costa Rica. Some monkeys in the background. I actually went to Costa Rica on my honeymoon. It was it's a real great country to go vacation in. Very progressive.
It's on my dream list of trips. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, look, this is interesting. I mean, high level here. What's the market cap sitting at of Newlux?
Last I looked, it's trading at 32 cents. I don't know the market cap offhand though. Although
let me pull it up here. This is why you guys pay me the big bucks, right? To come on here on live TV. I just pull these things up and away we go. It's the stock's up today. Well, no, sorry, it's not up. It says it's green though. Market cap of $30 million.
You want to share the screen other than my ugly mug?
I thought I was sharing my screen, but I don't know why anybody would be upset seeing your beautiful face on the screen. So Newlux Gold Ventures here, $30 million market cap. They just raised a bunch of cash that isn't showing up on that cash side. So that I'm assuming that doesn't include the new shares that were just added. So I don't know where the share count sits, but we're talking about a gold producer. They're going to add a bunch of plants that are going to come online in the coming months or quarters. So it's kind of an interesting name to keep an eye on. And it's nice to see some pictures and see that everything's moving forward. Let's talk a little bit of before we have Russell join us. Let's talk about this here. Verano, that closed $100 million financing. A cannabis name. You can't go through an episode of SmallCapSteve Live without talking about U.S. cannabis, can you? Is that possible?
We've got a bit of a weird coverage spectrum, don't we? Gold juniors and cannabis, two seemingly unrelated things.
It's the Canadian junior markets, baby. Nothing is expected. So what can you tell? I don't know anything about Verano. I just hear people saying, oh, well, this is going to be a big IPO. This is going to be a big deal. What can you tell me?
Yeah, so Verano, I don't know a whole lot more than what you do.
Brady.
Oh, I'm sure Brady could talk about it for ages. We should get him on the show to do so, actually. So today they announced the closing of two financings, effectively raising gross proceeds of $100 million US. That was split up between, it's pretty well 66-33 between brokered and non-brokered. 10 million subscription receipts were issued at $10 per share US. And this was basically part of the transaction that will see the company go public in a merger with AltMed. So AltMed is Florida and Arizona, and then Verano is in 12 different U.S. states. Off the top of my head, I could not tell you which. I could probably guess based on the most popular states to be in right now, but that'd be the extent of it.
They're buying AltMed in Florida.
AltMed, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know a little bit about AltMed. AltMed's like they're kind of like one of the more respected companies in Florida, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think they got a bit of smaller operations compared to some peers, but nothing wrong with that.
AltMed was like, they sold like this weird royalty that Canna Royalty, which then turned into Origin House, which is now part of Cresco. They sold like some weird kind of like 5%. It's a really interesting structured royalty package to get a little bit of cash in the door. And then that ended up in the hands of Title, which is red, white, and blue.
Title.
Yeah, his Title was this whole royalty company, so they were going to try to do a really interesting structure. We're going to fund you guys, but we want like 20% of your top line revenue in perpetuity, which is like a great deal if you can actually find someone who is stupid enough to sign that deal.
I was going to say I'm kind of mad I didn't think of that.
Well, no, like so I think part of the brilliance of it is that I don't know if you're getting hit with the 280E tax consequences. Where you're supposed to be paying, you're only allowed to write off your cost of goods sold. So I don't know how that played into that structure. That's one thing that I thought quite a bit about when I saw that. But it's just that whole Title thing, which is now red, white, and blue. What I find kind of interesting, and this is something I think a lot about when I see negotiations going on with companies. And it's just like a thought that appears in my head all the time, and this is unrelated to Verano, so I'll take this caption off. But when you're doing deals with people, and they're not, they're pretty easygoing, they're not really standing their ground, and you can take advantage of them, which I see all the time happen in capital markets. Are you going to disincentivize them, right? Like, let's say that you're like, going to take too much of a company. Does that put the real operator in a position where they're, in 3 months, they're going to be looking back saying, I gave up too much. I don't give a shit. Like, why would I work hard? And like, that's kind of like that idea of let's create a structure where we're going to put some early cash in and take, 15, 20% of top line revenue into perpetuity, which, by the way, like if you're able to hit like a 30% EBITDA margin, profit margin, that means that like if you're giving up 15%, you're giving up 50% of your bottom line. Like like you're crippling.
If I could get an arrangement, like to me that, but like buying that is great. Whoever's selling it, not so much.
The real world doesn't work like that. There's still an operator on the ground who has to be happy with the terms, is motivated, and wants to keep going. And like if this were me and I were operating a business, I'd be looking at that going like, why am I busting my ass for these other people to take a huge royalty? I'd be a lot more like just morally, after realizing how hard I'm working and how much I'm really getting for it, I'd be tempted to just be like, look, if I'm the operator and I'm the one who's actually making this whole thing work, like, what am I doing here? Right?
Absolutely. In such a scenario, I wouldn't be surprised to see assets start to be funneled out through sales. And then, I mean, you know how it is. I'm not alleging AltMed, to be clear, is doing anything like this or ever would. But personally, that's what I would think would happen is if it's too egregious, you'll just start to see assets be sold off because they'll say it's not profitable when really they're invested on the other side, right? So yeah, there's a happy medium to be found in any such transaction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One last thing that I think we need to touch on here is Revive Therapeutics this morning. I got a call from my buddy Rob Saltzman. Anybody who knows the Canadian venture markets has probably had a run-in with Rob. He called me this morning just beaming that he's happy that this deal has worked out for his good friend Michael Frank. And I gotta give it. By the way, Braden Mack, I gotta salute him. This was a Christmas present from him, our writer. I got this in the mail 2 days ago. I wanted to actually take some time to say thanks for this hat, but also a tip of the hat to Michael Frank, who just raised $20 million in a deal that everybody called bullshit on a year ago. That's now looking like they've raised some real money. They're actually going to be able to go and do some real things.
Absolutely. There was a ton of strong demand for this financing. It was actually announced last night at $10 million plus the standard 15% over allotment. And they literally doubled it this morning. So, I mean, that tells you how much demand is there. And I'm willing to bet that demand is actually a lot higher than 20 million. But you only want to enlarge it so much, right? So the financing itself, 50 cents per unit, each unit has one common share and one full warrant. Warrants exercise price of 70 cents, valid for a period of 3 years. There is an accelerator on that warrant at $1.10. And there's still a 15% over allotment on that 20 million, which I would not be surprised to see filled. That's just a trend lately. It enabled the size of the financing to allow for the over allotment because shareholders love to see that things were over allotted.
It's interesting. I had the benefit of getting to see Revive at a very early stage, and I'm going to tell that story one day when I have more time. But I see that, as I like to call him, the best looking man in junior mining has just logged in. So let's pull him onto the show here. Russell, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I see you had some pretty big news since the last time we spoke. Where should we start? Should we start with the drill program?
Look, well, that's always the most exciting. Like from an investor perspective, you're either adding money from the drill bit or you're adding money from M&A, and obviously we've been pretty aggressive on both. But yeah, drilling is literally about to start. Drilling at Newman Todd started already. But the real upside, in my opinion, is going to be what happens at Rivard, which we call the Newman Todd project, with Newman Todd. We just got the permit there, and we mobilized a second drill rig. We press released it today, and you're going to see whatever intriguing results we get out of it, probably within the next 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how the assay labs are.
How many drills do you have on site for that?
So we got one at Newman Todd, one at Rivard, but 2 drill rigs for a market cap like ours is very aggressive. And quite frankly, we'll likely have a third. Basically, the way it works in Ontario, Red Lake, you apply for a drill permit, and then it takes between 30-50 days for them to respond. We applied for the Gold Center permit, which is the property right next to Evolution's Red Lake mine, just before the end of the year. So we could conceivably have a third rig turning by mid-February.
So you also recently announced some new properties. What can you tell us about these?
Yeah, it's all of them are exciting in their own right. There's been the odd accusatory, well, maybe they're losing focus with the Quebec properties, but just to clear the air on those, they really aren't our focus. But what happened was we were approached by a gentleman who had a very interesting property package, and part of it included the 3 Quebec properties. And because of the properties in Quebec's location and proximity to maple and near-term producing mines, stuff that Agnico has an interest in, I did what any sensible manager would do, and I picked it up for pennies on the dollar. We'll look likely to flip those to someone. I've already had 3 incomings. But as for the rest of them, we have a property we picked up close to Prosper Gold, 25 kilometers away. We added adjoining properties in the Birch Uchi district, which really provides for cost effectiveness for us because we can share costs across contiguous properties. But really what's happening, if I was to boil down what's going on in the market, no one is paying attention. We literally, I'm not sure if you saw the performance in our stock. We went from about $1.30 to $1.95 with me just picking up, excuse me, an institutional order and a couple of other orders based off of the drill results we got targeting the Rivard veins on Newman Todd. And, the market is just severely focused on fast money. Anything that has to do with cannabis, mushrooms, crypto, and everybody's asleep at the wheel looking at what's going on in a macro perspective, like what the backdrop for gold looks like. And I almost feel sorry for the market in general who just aren't thinking for themselves and taking into consideration, the massive stimulus in the US. And getting long really good gold names. And, I've been on the air numerous times. I've said it. I'll say it again. Our goal is to become a relevant mid-tier. Our goal is to marry our exploration projects with production, and then build on production and build on exploration, because it's been decades since anyone created an El Dorado, an Amgold, or a Kinross. And it's not because it's so complex. It's not because there just is an opportunity. It's because the management profile in the gold space, in my opinion, has gotten a little bit, gray-haired, maybe lazy. And that's not, I'm not trying to speak about everyone in general. I just mean, you've got these little tiny projects who are raising $1 million, $2 million, and sinking 5 drill holes, not thinking about marrying themselves to another company, creating something bigger, something better that will draw the attention of a mid-tier. So
yeah, that's a really good point. And it's something that I talk about with Jay a bit. Is sometimes we see these companies like they'll announce like a $5-6 million raise, and then when we actually hear about the size of their drill program, it's like, what, like they're maybe spending like $1 million on drilling, $1.5 million on drilling. It's not like you're running a drill program here that you're actually going to be able to move a project, forward substantially.
Yep. Well, look, you've nailed it, the nail on the head. Mining, like even if you look at mining as a proxy to oil and gas exploration, like people need to understand the gold market is actually a pretty small market. Oil and gas is massive, but the technological innovation and the quality of aggressiveness and building companies and building value in the oil and gas sector has been leaps and bounds bigger than what the gold industry has embarked on. And it's only now that you're starting to see technological improvements and efficiencies occur, but one of the biggest efficiencies needs to be consolidation, because even if you go up into Red Lake and you look at how big our property package is now, and I'll reiterate, we now are the largest landowner in Red Lake. We are bigger than Evolution in terms of property owned, and we're just not getting the love that you would think someone of our stature deserves relative to our peers. So you look at Battle North, who's done a good job reinvigorating themselves, rebranding themselves post being Rubicon. But if you want to look at sort of the way the setup is in Red Lake, you have Pure Gold with an operating mill, you have and a mine, and you have Battle North, who is now rehabilitating and will be producing from their mine. They just got the debt financing maybe a month or two ago. So they have a mill, and they're not far away from Pure Gold. And then you also have Evolution with 2. And so you actually have tremendous excess capacity, but no one taking a run at other companies. So, Great Bear probably has the best valuation of any of the companies up in that area. If that were me and I had that type of a premium on my paper, I would be acquiring all of these assets that will look incredibly appealing when gold goes through the roof. Because we've talked about it on this show. I've done more and more research on it. Inflation is rampant in the U.S. They've just chosen to measure it differently to try to keep optically their view of inflation lower, because of inflation erodes everything, and it's just a farce. It's a game that they're playing that's simply going to blow up in their face once people realize, like you saw it, I think today they were talking about corn prices and soybean prices, and then they were talking about rental prices. Inflation is everywhere. It's just that the inflation metrics that they use in the US don't include everything that's already that much more expensive, because they want us, you, me, and investors to think there's no inflation in the US. It's actually ridiculous.
So I look at your scenario, right? And TGM, I think that this is actually going to be one of the hottest gold names when gold starts moving, because you have put together, and look, I'm biased because I know that I'm pretty sure you guys have worked with Michael Dane, who was actually messaging us earlier as a consultant. And Michael's a guy who I know Jay, we're always grateful that he always has all this time for us to explain to us how
very smart good guy. Yep.
And he's telling us he knows Red Lake as well as anyone. We also actually interviewed Tim Toomey. I don't know if he's involved with you guys. and who's also another former Red Lake Gold Corp guy.
Yep.
And
Stone, I believe.
Yeah, Stone Gold.
Yep.
Yeah. He's they have very, very, positive things to say about these assets you put together. And one thing I look at here is it's kind of like when we talk to some of the U.S. cannabis CEOs that are sort of saying to us, everybody's complaining about, that we haven't hit descheduling legalization yet. But from our vantage point, we get to make more hay while the sun is shining. And I look at some of the assets you've grabbed and how cheap, you've grabbed them for your background with capital markets.
Yep.
It's actually probably like not a bad thing for you.
Well, no, it's part of the business strategy. In my opinion, it's a very good thing. Just put yourself in the shoes of a mid-tier or a major. Are you actually going to pick up a 12-hectare property who owns a third of an asset? It just doesn't make sense to do that. What they're looking for, in my opinion, and that's from experience, being a part of the Cade and Takeout, they want district exposure. They want to get their hands on some near-term production, but like being able to buy something for or buy a district versus rather than just buying a small asset, that's the way to go. And there are many success stories out there, but if you're looking for that 10 bagger, you've got to create that feeling of 10 bagger size, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Now, of course, the next evolution in what we're trying to do is to try to figure out a way to bring in some production, which will never be easy, but it's something that we are aspiring to. I'm saying it to people online, and you can hold me to it. That's something we're looking at doing.
I think the interesting part about those in Red Lake, I mean, look at Great Bear. How is Great Bear at this point going to provide a solid return for investors? Just given their lofty valuation without having a resource estimate or anything, right? Like this past week, they put out great drill results by all accounts. I think it was like 10 grams over 34 meters. Yep. And the stock was flat. Yep. Right. So I don't know why at this point they aren't acquiring anything, whereas you've just gone on this binge of acquiring everything. And I mean, the latest acquisitions in Quebec, I think that's great because shareholders love news releases for whatever reason. Yep. And I mean, the prospect of just flipping these properties, almost like you're trading properties, is just going to cause more excitement for them, right? So,
well, it's look, there is it's fair for someone to say, are they stepping outside their knitting or are they focusing appropriately? But the answer is a very valid answer, and that is it came with this property package, and to have turned down the package because of 3 properties that didn't necessarily fit your profile was crazy. And if you actually take the view that gold is going higher, and look, anytime commodity prices go higher, like copper, nickel, zinc, all that kind of stuff, with 100% correlation, gold follows. So when I speak about gold going higher, I'm not saying I hope it goes higher. I'm saying, look, it's going to go higher. Being long those extra pieces of property gives us leverage for a scenario where we can horse trade it for something else or take a small position in a different company. And like I said, the minute we brought them in, we got calls from 3 other people because they're in fact located in a very strategic area. So we're sticking to our knitting. We're building a mid-tier, in our opinion. Like I said, we're lacking production, which is a pretty severe lack, but that's something we're trying to figure out. And then in the meantime, we've got the cash to drill these fantastic properties. And again, part of the reason why I think our stock ripped was the Gold Center property. Newman Todd is slowly getting understood. Our last press result, we hit VG on 3 out of 5 holes. People typically go kind of bonkers for that. Quite frankly, Novo, I don't know, 5 years ago, went to almost $1 billion market cap on VG. And yet we put it out and, we get a decent return on it. But the fact is that, that Gold Center property literally sits next to an operating mine, one of the biggest mines in the world. And people, either sales desks don't get it, either I'm not doing my job well enough explaining it, I think I am, or retail investors are just so stuck on trading, basically trading and not investing. and they're forgetting about these opportunities and what honestly made Canada rich, and that's natural resources. And we have that in spades now. So look, we started off with, exciting time coming. We're starting a very aggressive, very large, very meaningful drill program, and we already know we have a boatload of gold. There's VG all over Rivard. There's tons of historical results for Newman Todd. This isn't a scenario where we're looking for gold. We have it, and it just blows me away that there are companies who haven't even sunk a drill hole into their property that have the market cap we have. Just based off of some rampant trader like running it to the moon and then hopping out of it. So yeah, this is literally the most exciting period that Trillium, previously Confederation, has ever had since its inception, this drill program that we're embarking on now. And I firmly believe that these prices will be a thing of the past in 3 to 6 months. You'll be looking back and wishing you'd bought at 190 or 180 or 170.
Do you think, this is the CEO of a cannabis company said this to me when I was trying to tell them about gold a couple of weeks ago. It's like the young people, millennials, they want, they like psychedelics, they like cannabis, they like to see revenue, they like to see brands, they like to see, all the little stories that come along with these sorts of spaces. Do you think at some point that we're going to start to see the millennial investor who is that sort of fast money, I like these cannabis and psychedelic stories, start to pour in what do you think needs to happen for that to?
Look, the gold industry in a general sense has done a horrible job of marketing itself. It's the old gray-haired guy smoking a cigarette or a cigar on a leather chair, not out there pitching gold as an investment opportunity to the millennials. So in that respect, I completely agree with you. But I really do think, like, literally just today or over the last day, a toxic rumor was spread in the crypto market, and Bitcoin just got hammered, and all the Bitcoin names just got hammered. That is something you just won't see in the gold space because of sort of the archaic way we've done things. So what needs to happen is people like myself, new CEOs, and even the older CEOs need to step up. They need to get a little bit more aggressive in the social media space. We're going to be doing that, and explaining to the millennial what the value of gold is, because and you guys just need to believe me on this. If I go to Europe or Asia, I like gold is everything. They just can't get enough of it. But for whatever reason in North America, we've been subject to this US dollar is the be all and end all. I even saw an article the other day from some, I'll call them what I want, like just not sophisticated writer probably, saying the US dollar will never crack. It's always going to be there. But you don't have to look too far. Warren Buffett just invested in gold. People have convinced themselves that 1850 gold is a bad thing. That's a price level that I would have dreamt about. And so it really comes down to us needing to market ourselves better. And then also, like gold and crypto are kind of the same thing. I mean, there are key differences. One's a mathematical ledger, but they're both finite in terms of supply. They both are theoretically pitching themselves to hedge against inflation. I would love to see a world where we're working together rather than some guy like trying to convince you that people are selling gold to buy Bitcoin. That just isn't the case. People are buying Bitcoin and people are buying gold. It just so happens that there's a massive paper market overlaying the gold market versus the crypto market, where it's kind of unobstructed other than these crappy rumors that can affect it very, 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 very quickly. But it's a symbiotic relationship. We need to get more with it. We have to get more social media savvy. We have to embrace the new investor. So in that respect, the cannabis CEO is correct. But if you're a savvy investor, would you rather buy a mushroom company trading at $1 billion with no revenue, or would you rather buy a guy like ourselves, Trillium, with now a world-class property package in Red Lake, drilling the crap out of it, with a very real possibility for near-term cash flow, trading at, last month it was more like a $50 million market cap. Now we're at around 70 or 80 just because we've done very well with our news. Which one?
We're full disclosure, we're long Trillium, and obviously Trillium's an advertising client with us as well. But I know for Jay and myself, there's the ones that okay, there's a lot of torque here. They're gonna put some drills in the ground. They might get a bunch of traders, but for us, it's Trillium's. It's the ones that's got the shot at, like you said, being kind of like a mid-tier, sort of that $1 billion market cap. But what I wonder about with all the gold names, and part of the issue is we haven't seen a major discovery in a long time. I mean, Great Bear is kind of it's a nice story, but it also feels like it's largely been a capital markets program that was sort of like retail investors never really got to get behind it, where tightly held, a lot of wealthy high net worth individuals behind it. They hardly created any noise on social media as they did it. So nobody even knew that it was happening. So, TGM, they you guys have a lot of assets here. But you could hit a big drill hole, and it's a story that, and it's not like I said, some of these names, they raise enough money to do 8 drill holes, and then one of them's great of the 8. Everybody knows that they just twin that hole from some private data, and so that's why nobody can get excited, because they're just trying to lay out a bunch of retail shareholders. But 40 to 50,000 meters, I mean, that's like a mid-tier size program, is it not?
Yeah, no. So my former boss and good friend Ivan Bebic, who effectively created Orin, which is now Fury, Tier 1, and Sombrero. That's his vision and my vision are relatively similar, and that is, why look for 1 million? Look for 10. Why look for a couple of drill holes? Look for 100 drill holes. Give your investors a reason to stay long, not just trade you, and that's our goal. And the outlook for us, based on what we're seeing in our proximity, is pretty substantial, right? It's you can call it closology, you can call it district scale, you can call it many things, but the reality is, you want to provide. Look, my job as a CEO is to make my shareholders, of which I'm a very large one, and a bunch of my friends and family make them money. That's our goal, and you're really going to struggle doing it in this environment if you're only raising $1 or $2 million and sinking 6 drill holes a year, and that's part of the problem in this industry is just that. And with Bitcoin where it's at, you're going to see a lot of crappy companies coming out. You're going to see a lot of people lose money. I mean, that's the next iteration when things get really hot. And quite frankly, you've already seen it with mushrooms and cannabis. Just look at the disaster that Afria was. That was the darling. That was literally the company that everybody, we got to be like Afria. We have to make our, we have to build this, we have to build that.
By the way, a lot of it's music to my ears to hear you shitting on Afria, because I hear this from cannabis guys. We spoke with one of the portfolio managers in cannabis. We agree on everything, Afria, which is $5 million market cap, and they've been at this for 3 years. They still are negative operating cash flow. What's the path? How do they get to $500 million, EBITDA when they're starting out at nothing, to actually make this even make sense at its current valuation? But look, I'm on the same page in terms of what you have now. Some people go, it's really hard to assess. It's not really, if you're able to come up with an ounce in the ground figure. No.
Well, look, there's reasons to own mushrooms, and there's a great book, Stealing Fire. My partner and girlfriend Susie made me read it. It's about how Navy SEALs get into flow, and they'll use microdosing, and the value add of psychedelics for treating PTSD. But forgetting that and looking at it from a business profile, it's still an agricultural product. And I really struggle with, I mean, if you're a momentum trader and you want to get long mushrooms, go for it. But be a trader. Don't be a long and hold strategy player, because agricultural products are very difficult to make money off of, and it's more just the hype of what's happening. What I'm trying to sell investors on and trying to get them to understand is, look, Trillium, we have a company, we have cash for a year, we can drill a lot of drill holes. We're drilling in a world-class jurisdiction. We have a stated goal. Like it's kind of MBA 101. Like, you have to have a vision of where you're going. And yeah, there's going to be bad times. I mean, we were at 270, we dropped down to, I think we were 135. People still don't care about the gold market, but as you're seeing now, there are people paying attention, and that's what's taken Great Bear to where they are. As I'm thinking through this, as I'm talking to it, I should probably reach out to the CEO of Great Bear, so I'll do that. But it's the most unloved sector. So being a contrarian is probably the best way to make not 100 grand, but 100 million. Looking at this space now, if you can find those cherries in the gold sector, that's how billionaires are made. And we're at a point right now, in my opinion, with what the US is embarking on, that inflation is already rampant. Like I said, I mean, I can spout all the facts, and we can do that in another call or now or whenever. But the reason why they changed the methodology for measuring inflation was because they were worried about their social security payments. So they changed it so that they wouldn't have to spend as much money on social security. And then they changed it so that GDP wouldn't be destroyed. So if you actually look at the inflation adjusted GDP for the US using the formula the US used in 1980, GDP has fallen like a stone, and inflation is at somewhere 7-8%. And it's math. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. Inflation is there. Gold should be going a lot higher. And really all they're trying to do is they're selling the future for today. And I just want to be positioned for it. And that's really it.
Yeah. And I fully agree. We actually have to wrap it up because we've got a 1 o'clock with Turd Ferguson from TF Metals Report, who's, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his stuff on Twitter.
I love his name.
He's actually he's brilliant at breaking down sort of like the London Bullion Exchange. Yeah. So I'm really excited to be talking with him. We're doing something with Cassandra.
You can tell him what I was just saying. Like, literally, there are smart people out there that are trying to tell people what's going on. It's just, how do we get people to listen? Because it's really hard to get someone to trade their Bitcoin and start buying gold or their cannabis or their shroom when they've made some money, not understanding that the cliff is coming.
The time's coming, and I mean, I think that you're doing a great job for your shareholders coming out here and just doing appearances like this and everything else that you're doing. And I think that we don't see enough of that. I can't tell you the number of publicly traded CEOs who are afraid to get on camera and talk about their company. So this is all this work you're doing now, I think will ultimately create that visibility and exposure for your shareholders for when the time comes, and it's coming. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Russell. You're always a great guest, and we always love hearing your views and thoughts. And we're going to continue to keep holding Trillium, and we believe in this thing.
I appreciate it, man. And one question, what's going on with the hat?
Oh, this was actually, I got this. This is the old school. I got this. This was a gift from one of our writers, Braden, sent it to me for Christmas. I just got it yesterday, and it's a Tampa Bay Devil Rays old school hat.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I thought, but I was just like, I'll wait till the end to ask him.
Yeah, I just got it, so it's figured I'd wear it today. I love the old gear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
Russell.
Have a good one.
Okay, so Jay, let's wrap it up here very quickly. What's on the dive today?
What's on the dive today? Right before we went live, we had something out on Amgold, which we discussed earlier. Came from young Justin talking about what the analysts have to say about recent guidance and everything else. Right after this, at 1:30 Eastern time, we've got your favorite Justin Holland of Iguana Technologies on the Daily Dive. Sorry. Aside from that, we've got the typical macro coming out from Hermina Paul, and we'll see what else comes out this afternoon. It's been a wild week for me, and I'm quite frankly exhausted, and there's yet another day to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's only Thursday, dude. You got another day. Quickly, we are not financial advisors. Nothing we say or talk about on here is intended to be financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, don't come to us. Go to a financial advisor. We appreciate everybody who took the time to join us today. It's so much fun to get to do this every day, and I'm just so appreciative that anybody wants to hear what a couple of ding-dongs like me and Jay have to say. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, Justin, I think, is hopefully going to join us for a few minutes, and then we got James Williams from the Cannabis Guild, who's got all their forecasts for the year for Canadian cannabis, which is going to be really fun. All right, thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.